After working on this image for a little bit, I decided that it needed another element to really explain the concept. So I decided to add some rain to the picture, just on one side covering the windshield. So what we did is we went out and cleaned off my car, made it all ready and picture perfect again.
So we're cleaning off the windshield. We're out here, we're gonna recreate the scene where we were the first time. So we have to clean off the windshield again, and we've matched the lighting for the most part.
And then I got a giant roll of paper and I cut out a piece of paper to match the inside of the windshield, which we then taped to the inside of the windshield so it would just be pure white when you were looking inside of the car. And then we took some pictures with a hose and turned on the windshield wipers to make it look like it was raining on the car, but we shot this in a way that would make it possible for us to composite this later on in Photoshop using blend modes. So now what I want you to do is open up the two pictures, the ones we took that I selected for us to use in the course, called Rain 1 and Rain 2, and they're in that same download file. We'll start with Rain 1. I want you to unlock that layer and bring it into our document. Oops. Make sure you have the Move tool selected, then bring it into the document. What we're going to do is we're going to place this layer where we want it by adjusting the opacity. Remember before when we used difference blend mode to place the layers because we could see where the two images matched? That works great if you have two very similar images. This isn't going to work with difference blend mode, so we'll just bring the opacity down to about 50 and drag the image to generally cover the windshield here. I want the windshield to make sure it's completely covering the windshield of the below image, something like that. And then I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, and Skew. This is a cool transform tool because it allows you to click near the edges of the transform box and drag them. It'll kind of distort it that way. Because I want it to look like the rain is coming down the windshield at an angle. Or rather, the camera's at an angle and it needs to match that. So I'll click OK. And then with this, we'll just bring back the opacity up to 100. And we will go to the blend modes and change it to soft light. That'll work really well for this. Yeah, that looks great. To blend it in a little better, I'm gonna add an adjustment layer and change the levels here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna change the mid levels and bring them down, but up. I'm gonna make them darker. And because I want to make it look like the rain is on the windshield. I don't want to really change what the image looks like underneath. Okay, so I need to make sure I'm applying this adjustment layer to the rain on the windshield layer. Then as I change this, I'm gonna bring down the midtones so that it doesn't really change the look of the image, the lighting on her face, but it just makes it look like there's rain there now. Okay, I'm gonna move this around because this area is like directly on her face. Go back to my transform and like widen it a little bit. Okay, so I'm happy with that, so I'll accept that. I'll just compare. Yeah, that looks good. So next what we need to do is we need to make a layer mask so that this rain only affects the windshield area. We're gonna add rain here to the windshield, and then we'll add it to the side of the car a little bit here, and then to the top here. So with this, I'll add a new layer mask, hit Control I to invert that layer mask, then take my brush tool and paint with white over the windshield. So I can already see I have a problem. I didn't adjust it well enough down here. Unless, you know what I'm gonna do, actually? Yeah, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna transform this again. I'm gonna make it bigger so that it covers the entirety of the glass area, not just the windshield part. I'll do that, and then I'll have to readjust my layer mask. So I'll just delete this layer mask by right-clicking and clicking delete. So I'll add a new layer mask, Control I to invert it or fill it with black, and then I'll paint this again. So now my border, yeah, I want it to go all the way to the edge of the glass. This doesn't need to be perfect because I'm going to be adding water to the rest of these areas, and it'll probably blend together pretty well. I do want to double check my layer mask to make sure that I haven't left any spots out on the windshield. I can already tell by looking on the icon that I have, so I'll shift click, alt click on the icon, and then just make sure I fill this all in with white. That looks good. I'll probably bring the opacity down a little bit. 66 is probably good for that. Okay. Now I want it to look like she's had her windshield wipers on, so I'm gonna add a little other element to this side with Rain 2. You can see here how the windshield wiper makes the water gather up on this side. I'll unlock this layer and drag this one in now too. So since this layer was selected, it placed it as an apply to that layer, so I'll drag it on top. Click Alt and then click between the layers. And I'll just adjust the size of this as well to place it. So I want to make sure that it's mostly focused on this area right here next to the windshield, so I can like rotate it, try to match it there. Just try to align these roughly. I don't want it to look like it's at an angle, so I'll do that same skew effect. I'll bring my opacity down so I can see it. So edit, transform, skew. Then on this side, I will just bring this down and then click and drag it all up again. So now it looks like it's in the right area. You know what I'm gonna do, now that I'm looking at this, I'm gonna have this come past the border here. And this is going to be the, yeah. Okay, so that will be the area of the image that covers this side of the glass as well. So I'll scale it up because I need my side of the glass covered now too. When I say side of the glass, I'm talking about this darker area that's glass, but it's not see-through. Then just try to bring it to the edge. My edge is this inside of that seam, so as long as it's within there, we're good. Yeah. Okay, I have a weird word up here. I'll have to like play with that for a little bit, but overall, that's good. Now with this layer, I'm going to use a hard light blend mode. So I'll turn off this bottom layer so I can just see this layer on the car. Go to hard light and I'll bring down the opacity. So you can kind of see what I'm going for here. I want to show this edge of the water because that's what it would look like on a car. Okay, I'll put it there. And next what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust the levels just like I did before. Make sure I apply it to the layer. Here we go. Adjusting my midtones like so. And now we look and it looks more how it should, at least more how I want it to. If I turn this on and off, I can see how it's affecting her beneath. Yeah, okay, now I'll add a mask to this layer, Control I to invert it. I'll paint the areas that I want back in. I'll paint with black to correct where I overshot it over here. So you can see this right here. That's where I taped the white paper to my windshield. Then right here we have some like numbers, so I'll just erase that. So what I can do with this area, because I still want it to be water, and if I just erased it, it would look different. That's not that bad actually. But when I zoom out, you can kind of tell there's a spot there. So what I'm gonna do is bring this layer to a normal blend mode, full opacity. I'll use my healing brush tool, or rather my clone stamp tool. Yeah, right here, I'll use my clone stamp tool. So I'll select Alt, click down here to define my source, and then with that, paint up here. Perfect. Make sure when you use your clone stamp tool that you are sampling from the current layer and you're painting at full opacity. Great, and you know what, I'll just do that up here as well. Why can't I do that? Is it because I messed it out? Yep. So I'll go to paintbrush, go to white, paint back in this area. Okay. And then I'll use my clone stamp tool here instead of just erasing it. All right, now let's reapply that hard light blend mode. Go to, add that, go to hard light, 33%. Now that looks great. Now let's see what that looks like with my other rain. Okay, so I'm gonna need to erase some of this now because I went a little too far with this. I have 2 layers on this area now, so good. Now real quick with lower opacity, just kind of paint out some of the rain on her face and body because I don't want it to be too distracting. Okay, great. So now I have these 2. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just put these into a group so that I don't get too cluttered in my layers panel. So I'll name this rain. Then I can keep working within here. So now I need to add some rain to this edge because I don't want it just completely end right there. I want it to have like somewhat of a transition. So we'll go to rain 2. No, I think it's, yeah, rain 1. Go to rain 1, bring that into our image, and then place it where it needs to be. So bring down the opacity to place it correctly. This one's gonna be a little tougher to place because we're trying to match the edge of the car. And since I wasn't very smart and I took them at 2 very different angles, it'll be a little tougher. So what I can do is like these 2 corners, I want them to match up, so I just put those there. And then I can take my anchor point. The anchor point is in the middle, and that's where the transforms will take place from. So I just select it, drag it to the new area, and now when I make changes, they will take place from that anchor point. So I can just drag these into alignment. Good, okay. That is just fine for what we need. Okay, so now with this, I'm going to go to an overlay blend mode and bring down the opacity. With this one, I'll probably also, because when I overlay it, it adds the colors together. So I'm gonna go to adjustments and then go to hue saturation or vibrance. Go to hue saturation and just bring down the saturation. Apply it to that layer. And now we can, when I turn this layer on and off, it's not changing the colors as much as it was without that adjustment layer on it. So now this is just a black and white image that we're working with. But when we overlay it, we see those details and it looks great. So now I'm gonna add a layer mask. Control I, invert it. Select my brush tool, and with white, brush over this area of the car and add some rain back in. Oh, I brought my opacity down, so I want to bring that back up and add the rain to this side of the car. It looks super cool. Okay, so I'll probably have it like, yeah, I'll have it come down to about here. So I'll paint it out there. Paint it out there. It's cool because it looks like it really is in the car, and her reflection, we see the rain over it, which is awesome. It really helps to sell the effect. Yeah, I like it over here because it helps sell the effect. If I just have rain over here, it'll even help even more. So let's do that, and then with a more feather, just kind of gradually bring that over here. And then what do I want to do here? Because these lines don't really match, you know, all I'll do is I'll just bring that fully in and then go to this image, go to a normal blend mode. I'm gonna just use my healing brush over that area. So I want to zoom in here. So I just want to get rid of this line. So my healing brush will probably work fine for that. Yeah, not great. You know what I'll do is I'll just undo those changes and use my clone stamp tool instead. Okay, and then I'll get rid of this line. Okay, I'm good with this. And now if we go back and make it an overlay, bring the opacity back down, and yeah, now we only see that one line, which makes me very happy. Okay, so this is looking pretty good so far. Now I need to add the rain on top of the car and we'll be pretty much done with the rain. We'll probably fine tune it a bit, but let's go to rain 2. Drag that onto our composition. We'll bring it to the top here and unapply it to that layer. This one will be pretty easy because it doesn't matter that it matches up perfectly for this one. We just want the roof of the car to completely cover the other roof of the car in our composition. So I'm just using opacity adjustment to see through my 2 layers and place this one just as I did with the others. You know what I could do? I'll try to line up these 2 borders between the cars. Because it has some cool like reflections right in there on the border. So if I could have those in my composite, it would probably make it feel a little more realistic. Okay, accept that. Now with this one, we'll go to soft light and we'll keep that at 100%. Yeah, that looks cool. It just looks like there's water on my windshield. Perfect. Okay, let's mask this out as well. Control I, and then we'll paint back in. You can see because I'm using the overlay blend mode here as well, that it's really making this car look blue, or a deeper blue. So I will bring the saturation of this layer down as well. Okay, now that I have the general outline of that, I'll alt-click my mask, fine-tune it, and just paint in the rest. All right, and then I'll reset my view here and take a look. That looks great. So you can see here that it's really making this look like a deep blue, so we'll add a hue saturation adjustment on that as well. And now it's not as crazy. And then I also want to adjust the look of this border here because it's a little too dark and we did so much work earlier to try to match that to the car. So let's see what we can do to fix that now. It's on our main layer. Oh, is it not? Oh, it's here. And on top it's here. Okay, what I can do is I'll just add a little burn to it. So I'll go to my burn tool. And where I have the border here, I'll just darken it a little bit. Yeah, that's matching better. Okay, that looks great. So now we have successfully made it look like it was raining when in fact there was no rain. It's cool how in Photoshop when you're working you can have an idea and then make it happen after the fact. Because sometimes all your ideas don't come to you at once and you do something and then what you've done inspires you to take it to the next level. So it's really cool how we can think of an idea after the fact and then add something as dramatic as rain to our image later on.